Something for everyone at Denver Startup Week, and we thank you for joining us. Now over to Diane.
Unmute yourself, Diane.
Hello, everyone. I was talking while I was muted. We're going to start over. Hi, I'm so excited to be here today. I'm Diane Pauly, and it's awesome we're able to do this virtually. I'm going to share my screen with all of you, and we're going to just dive in. I've got a lot of content to cover with you today, and I'd love to just get started. Thank you all for being here. So you guys can see that. I'm going to kind of just give a little bit of background so you can get to know me a little bit more and why we're talking about how to get people to like you and buy from you today. I'm so excited that you all signed up, and just as a disclaimer before we get started, if you have a notebook or if you want to open up a Google document, that would be great. I think you're going to want to take a lot of notes during this. So do that and we'll get started. So I'm Diane Pauly, and I'm a brand and content strategist. My business that I run is called Give Me Sweet Words, and I help business owners with their messaging, content, and copy so that they know how to say what they do and get the right people coming to them. Because that's often the hardest thing when it comes to marketing. We put our message out there and we just hope people come. So today I want to help you learn how to get people coming to you. I started my business back in 2013, actually, and I ran it until 2017. For the last few years, what I was doing, I put a pause on my business and I actually went back to corporate, or in my case, the nonprofit world. I got to work with some major nonprofits doing their content marketing, which was really, really great. But I always felt that pull to go back to business. And I think as you all are entrepreneurs here, business owners, and you have startups, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. So when I relaunched my business this year, I made the decision to relaunch pre-pandemic. Did not expect there to be a pandemic happening and doing all of this virtually. I had no idea if I would be launching to anyone. I spent 4 years building a following, an audience, and then I just stopped sharing with them the last few years when I was working again full time. So I was wondering, would they even still be around? To my shock and my surprise, not only were they around, but they were kind of waiting for my comeback. They were there to support me because of all the years that I'd given to them and supported them. So if we're talking about how to get people to like you and buy from you today, this is what it's all about. It's about building relationships. It's sharing who you are with the people you're trying to serve, knowing what they need and meeting them where they are, giving them the kind of information and content that they're actually looking for. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And this is something to write down here, because people don't buy from people they don't know. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. So again, take out a notebook if you can, open up a Google Doc and take some notes today, because I want to share a lot of valuable content with you. And if you have any questions at any point, we'll be monitoring the chat. So make sure to put those in the chat and we'll get to those later. So how do you get people to like you and buy from you? The reason I believe that people stuck around with me in my business is because I spent the time building up relationships with them and getting to know them. I understood what they needed and how I could best serve them. I didn't just say, hey, I've got what you need over here. That would have been weird and no one would have responded to that. And that's what a lot of people end up doing with marketing, because we just don't know the right way to do it. We say, we have a solution, come get that solution. But it takes a few more steps before you can get to that point. Because if you do that, you end up shouting into a void, especially online, and you don't end up standing out from anyone else. So it's not what you want to do. When it comes to marketing, what you want to do is tell people what you could do for them in a way that they understand and can resonate with. And that's why I love content marketing, which you'll see on the screen and what we're going to dive into today. Content is a great way to connect with people. It builds a bridge and a connection, and it helps people get to know, like, and trust you. If you haven't figured it out yet, we're going to be talking about the know, like, and trust factor a lot today. When you create content that connects with people, it helps you build a relationship with your potential client or your customer. What content ultimately does is it speaks to the person that you're trying to reach, and it gives them the information they're looking for in that very moment. It's almost like you're anticipating their needs for them or getting inside of their head, and it helps them to build trust with you because they feel like this person has taken the time to actually get to know me, and that makes them feel good about you. So it sounds simple, right? You give people the information they need with content, and you tell them what you do for them by marketing. If you want to write that down again, you give people the information they need with content, and you tell them what you do for them by marketing to them. So it sounds great, but how do you do it? What does content marketing actually look like? What it looks like is you creating that content that people need to hear. And what we're going to do is dig into all of that today. So how do you go about creating content that's good enough to market to the people you want to reach? And how do you know it's what they're going to resonate with? So there are 4 pieces that I believe are essential, crucial to content marketing, and that's what we're going to dig into right now. So again, take out your notebook. It's important to write down these 4 things. So there are 4 things when it comes to content marketing. Number 1, it's important to understand who you're marketing to. Number 2, it's important to know where this person that you're marketing to is in their decision-making process. 3, know what content types you need to create for this person, where they are at that moment. And number 4, know what channels you need to use in order to connect with them. I'm going to be repeating these steps as we go through all of these slides, so don't worry if you're like, I missed some of them. I'm going to be repeating it again, but just make sure to keep this in mind. It's important to know who you're marketing to, where this person is in their decision-making, the content types you need to create for them, and the channels you need to use to connect with them. Because at the end of the day, what content marketing is all about is knowing who your ideal client or customer is and connecting with them. The more you hone in on this, the more you'll be able to create content that not only resonates with people, but helps them to decide that you're the person that they want to work with and buy from. And that's what we all want to know, right? How do we get people to like us and buy from us? So before I go into the 4 steps, and I have examples to give you guys, and I want to make sure that you really understand these steps well, I just want to get a quick pulse check on where we are, and I have 2 questions for us. And you can use on the bottom of your screen, I believe you have a reaction tab. You can give a thumbs up, give a clap. I would just love to know where you guys are right now and if this is resonating. So or you could just raise your hand. So number 1, how many of you currently have a product or service that you offer? If you're a business owner, if you're a startup, okay, I'm seeing some people raising their hands. Good, good, good. Yes, that's why you're here. You have something that you're offering and you want to learn how to market it and get people coming to you, right? Yes, good. People raising their hands. It's always good to get a pulse on the audience. Cool. So number 2, how many of you, and it's okay if you don't raise your hand here, how many of you feel like you're effectively marketing your product or service? And when I say effectively marketing it, I mean that people know what you do, they know how to refer people to you, and that people are coming to you over and over again to work with you and buy from you. Okay, we're getting a few hands, which is good. And if you're not raising your hand, that's okay, because that's what we're going to go into today. How to get people to know, like, trust, and buy from you. And if people are already doing that, how to get them to do that that much faster with you. Cool. Thank you guys for participating in that. So by the end of today, my goal and my hope is that you feel confident that you can go out and effectively market your product or your service with the right kind of content. So with that, I'm going to go into the 4 pieces of content that we just looked at and give you some details on those. And as we're going along, again, feel free to put any questions or comments that you have in the chat, and I'll make sure to get to those later. Okay, step 1. Here's where the notes come in. Step 1 is understanding who you're marketing to. So the kind of content that you ultimately create depends upon who your audience is and who you want to talk to. So let's say you're B2B, business to business. You're probably going to want to be talking to your audience differently than if you were B2C, business to consumer or customer. Let's say you're talking to another business. You have to understand where they're coming from and what their goals are. They may be looking to you to help them save time and money in the long term. And knowing their goals will help you figure out what kind of content to create for them and the best way and time to give it to them. Now, let's say you're B2C and you're directly marketing to consumers or customers. They may not know exactly what they need at this point, and maybe they need guidance and they want to learn about your brand and if you're a fit for them at the end of the day. So they may need more of a personal touch from you. Knowing this can help you craft the kind of content that really connects with them and helps to build that relationship with you. Hopefully this is making sense so far. Step 2. Step 2 is knowing where they are in their decision-making process. Out of all of these steps, this is one of the most important ones, and we're going to be going into detail on this one a lot more. Because now that you're thinking about who your target audience or ideal client or customer is and what their goals are, you're one step closer to creating content that can connect with them. And this part, knowing where they are in their decision-making process, will directly affect how you communicate with them and the kind of content that you ultimately give them. Think about it this way. Did someone maybe come to you as a referral? Or maybe did someone find you through an ad you had running on social media? It's important to think about these things. How do people actually find me? Maybe you haven't considered this before, but this is something that's going to be crucial to your business and helping you figure out how to connect with people more deeply. So I mentioned this before, but there's this know, like, trust factor that we're going to be talking about all today, and it's super important. So let's take that example of someone saying they found you through social media or an ad that you had running online. At this point, they really don't know that much about you or your business. Maybe they read something you wrote in a post or an ad and they liked it, and maybe they clicked on your website to learn more about you. Maybe they clicked off, we don't know. This is someone you need to build that know, like, and trust factor with, because if you want them to stay with you and consume your content, it's important that they feel that connection with you. So if you've gotten them to click on your website from something you wrote, they might want to learn more. And do you have anything there that's going to give them the information they're looking for? It's important here to make sure that you have in-depth blog posts, checklists, ebooks, pieces of content on your website that teach them more about your brand and business and what you can do for them. Now, let's say someone was referred to you. That means that they found out about you from a trusted source who recommended you. That in and of itself speeds up the process of this person getting to know, like, and trust you. They can already feel that trust because someone referred them to you. You just need at this point to give them the details of how to work with you because they're almost ready to buy. So this is where you go into how much will my product or service cost? What's the timeline of working with me look like? Things like that. And we'll go over this some more in a little bit. But now I want to go into step 3. So step 3 is knowing what content types you need to create for the people you're trying to reach. So now that you know more about who you're talking to and where they might be in their decision-making process, you can start to think about the content types you want to create for them. And this depends on if they discovered you, they're getting to know you, or if they feel like they can trust you already. So again, if they found you through social media or happen to come up on your website from a Google search, they might just be getting to know you that way, and they don't feel like they can like you just yet. So you want to make sure however people find you, you're giving them the kind of information or content, information equals content, that they're looking for in that very moment that they find you. So this can be anything from, and there's a lot here, infographics, videos, checklists, blog posts, guides, ebooks, white papers, case studies. The list will go on and on and on. But the point is you create the content that the person who's finding out about you is looking for in that very moment. So what you end up creating comes down to understanding who you're talking to, what they need, and when they need it. I'll repeat that. What you create comes down to who you're talking to, what they need, and when they need it most. And now I'm going to give you some examples so it makes a little bit more sense. So let's say that someone is just finding out about you. This is where you want to help them do that first step, get to know you. And I believe you do this with helpful information. So let's say they're just finding out about your business and they find you through social media. This is where you want to give them light, valuable, and helpful information that meets them where they are and addresses a need. And I've done this personally through my own social media by sharing videos and posts. There's an example here where I personally talk about my why, where I go behind the scenes. I share what it's like to run a business, what I stand for. And I do this because I know that when someone encounters me on social media, that may be their first interaction with me. And I need to start the conversation here. I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm not trying to sell them anything at this point. I'm just talking about my mission and what I believe so they can feel a connection with me. Now, let's say someone has gotten to know you already and they're almost at that point where they're like, you're my person. I like you. You get them to that point with the right information. So if they've been following you and they're aware of a problem that they want solved and they think that your business can help them with that, and they might have even Googled the solution that they're looking for, and if your website is optimized, we'll go into that later, you might have come up in a Google search for them. The point being, this is a situation where someone wants to learn more about you and find out if you're the person to help them solve their problem. It's also important to note that at this point in their decision-making process, they also may be looking at your competitors. So it's important that you stand out with really educational and informative content that answers their questions and shows that you know what you're talking about. And a way that I've done this personally is by creating checklists on my website. I have some templates that you can see here. And what I do is I help business owners with their first step. I help them with their messaging. And then something I do too is I write a lot of blog posts answering people's questions about content marketing. So when they go to my website, they have a library of content to sift through. Now, let's say that someone likes you. You've convinced them. Now they need to trust you in order to buy from you. That step comes before they buy from you. So you do this by answering their questions. So let's say you have a situation where, like we mentioned, someone is referred to you, or you've built up enough trust with them that they're almost ready to buy. At this point, they just need some information and their last minute questions answered. This is where you ease their worries and assure them that you're the person to get them the results they're looking for. This is where you can show them case studies of other clients you've worked with. You can give them a demo of your product here. The way that I've shared this kind of content personally is I have a lot of testimonials on my website, like this one, of past clients that have worked with me, or I go in depth into a client case study. The point with all of this is that there are a lot of pieces of content that you can create, but you want to focus and hone in on the kind of content that can meet your ideal client or customer where they are, answer their questions, and give them the information they're looking for before they even ask for it. Again, you're anticipating their needs, and it's like you're in their head already. And that's what you want to go for. So that was step 3. Now we're in the last step, step 4. It's important here to know what channels to use to connect with your target audience or your ideal clients or customers. So once you know who you're talking to and where they might be in their decision making and what kind of content you can create for them to meet them where they are, where do you promote this content? That's what we're going to be digging into. The main answer is that you want to use what works best for your business and your clients and your customers. You don't, and this may not be a popular opinion, but you do not have to be on every social media channel to do this. But you should know, if you're using social media, which channels your target audience is using, and then go there and get in front of them. And then you may not have even thought of this because I said channel, but I want you to think of your website and your email as channels to share your content as well, because this is super important. You should have a website that you're optimizing, and you should be email marketing, because that's where you form a relationship with your audience, you build trust, and it ultimately leads to buying decisions. Plus, if social media ever goes away, you'll always have your contacts information this way. Knowing where to promote your content starts with knowing where your ideal client or customer is hanging out online. Again, that doesn't mean you have to be everywhere all at once. You just have to know where they're looking for information and go there and get in front of them. Are they on social media? Are they Googling to find specific information? Are they reaching out to friends or colleagues for recommendations? Once you think about these things, you'll know where to go. So I'm going to go into a few examples here to give you a better idea. So let's look at social media. You can look at social media as the first entry point to your business. It's where a lot of people are going to encounter your brand for the first time and get to know you. If your ideal client or customer is on social media, you'll need to find out what channels they're on. So let's say you're B2B, business to business. The businesses you're talking to may prefer using LinkedIn over other channels because it's more professional. But if you're B2C, business to consumer, and have a product-based business that you want to show off, your customers may be hanging out on Instagram. And what better way to highlight your products than to have an Instagram page dedicated to your business? Obviously, I'm not a product-based business, but I also utilize Instagram because I know that's where a lot of people find me. So it comes back to knowing your target audience and getting in front of them. Now, let's say that they found your website. So there is a chance that people are Googling for the solution to their problem and they discovered your website. It's why it's crucial to have a website. This is where people get to know you and decide if they like what you're about. This is where that like comes in. Plus, when you have a website, you're able to optimize it. I've mentioned this a few times. That means that you can grow its visibility online and you're ranking on Google. But in order to do that successfully, again, you need to know what people are actually searching for on Google. Now, after people get to know you and like you through social media and your website, they have to feel like they can trust you before deciding they want to buy from you. That's that step before buy, is trust. And I believe this is where email marketing comes in super handy. If you have a website, you want to have a way to capture people's email addresses, whether it's by creating a checklist they can download or having a newsletter they can sign up for. I personally have both. And again, if social media ever goes away, this is the place where you're going to be connecting with people, the people you're trying to serve. This is what an email list is for. It's personal communication between you and your audience that builds a relationship and establishes trust, because here they're getting the behind the scenes information. It's like they're part of a club with you and they're getting to hear things for the first time. It's also where you can promote your new product launches or any services that you create, which is super helpful. Okay, that was a lot of information. So I wanted to take some time to review. Again, write this down, super important. When it comes to content marketing, you need these 4 things. Understand who you're marketing to, know where this person is in their decision-making process, know what content types you need to create for them, and know what channels you need to use to connect with them. Again, at the end of the day, it's all about knowing who your target audience or ideal client or customer is. The more you hone in on this, I promise the more you will be able to create content that not only resonates with people, but helps them to decide that you're the person they like, they want to work with, and buy from. And that is the goal. And that is why, and we have enough time for this, we're going to put into practice everything we just learned about, because this is a workshop after all. So what we'll be doing next is getting into breakout rooms. And I want you to work on these 4 pieces of content. I'll be sharing these slides again, so if you haven't written it down, you'll see the 4 pieces. But the goal is to brainstorm with one another, talk about these things, discuss these ideas, and my hope is by the end of your time together, each of you is able to come up with at least one piece of content that you can create for your business after today's session. Does that sound good? If it does, thumbs up. So a few details before we go into breakout rooms to come up with the kind of content that you're going to create for your business. It's important, I'm going to keep repeating this so it's drilled in, that you, number 1, decide who you're marketing to. Are you B2B or are you B2C? First question to ask yourself. Number 2, this is super important. Figure out where the person you're marketing to is in their decision-making process. We talked about the different ways that people can find you online. So think about that. What was this person referred to me? Do I get a lot of people coming to me through social media? Do I share posts on other websites? Think about all the ways people can come into contact with you. And then number 3, choose what content types you need to create for these people you're trying to serve. So again, the list is long. We have a lot of different content types, and I can put all of these in the chat box, infographics, videos, blogs. You don't have to get bombarded with all the types. Just knowing what type the person you're trying to reach at that very moment they come into contact with you needs. That's key. And then number 4, decide what channels you need to be on and using to connect with this person. Again, social media are the main channels. You've got Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. There's a lot. But I also want you to consider here your website and your email, because those are also channels you can use to communicate. Now, before we go into breakout rooms, I want to make sure to hone in on this and that it makes sense. So I want to give a few quick examples of what coming up with this kind of content could look like, depending on how people encounter your business or your brand. So example number 1, and I'm going to use myself as an example so that makes sense. So my number 1 for each of these examples is going to stay the same. So I mainly market to other business owners, so you can say I'm B2B. My number 2 for all of these examples is going to change based on how people encounter me and my business. So some people find me online, and I know that they need to get to know me before they even think of buying from me. And I call these new leads. So number 3, when I think about the kind of content I want to give them, I'm going to create videos and helpful resources to share with them because I want them to get to know more about me and what I can do for them. And then number 4, when I think about how am I going to connect with people on social media, or it's social media in this case, I'm going to use Facebook because I know that I share in a lot of Facebook groups and that people find me in that way. So as an overview, recap. So if I want to connect with new people, discovering my business for the first time, getting to know me, I'm going to work on creating videos and resources for them that I'll plan to share in social media, in my case, Facebook. And now I know there's a lot of you here and you may all have very different businesses and you may be at different points and stages of your business. So something that I want to note here is that in the case of people just getting to meet you, I did this. I use social media and I built up this know factor with people a lot when I was first building my business several years ago, because it's how I ended up building that following of people who are still with me today. It's because I took the time to create brand awareness around who I am and what I wanted to offer them. And I helped them get to know me in that way. So if you're at that point of your business, this is something to focus on. Now, let's say you're a little bit further in your business and people are already getting to know you. You're here today because you want to help them get to like you. So this is the part that's all about that. So again, using myself as an example, on B2B, number one is staying the same, but number two is changing here in this example. So if people follow me online and they know about me, it's my job to help them like me by giving them the information they need. And I call these qualified leads because they're interested in getting to know more. So in this case, the content I'm going to create for them is blog posts and downloadable guides for them that answer their questions and give them the information they're looking for. And I connect with them through my website because I know they're visiting it and I'll direct them to the resources there for them. So to recap, if people know your business, but you want to get them to like you, in my case, what I've done is I've created blog posts and downloadable guides that I direct people to on my website. So again, so focusing on my website content here, I did this when I was a little bit further along in my business. I made a mistake when I first started, way back when, all those years ago, is I created a website and I just expected people to show up, and that doesn't happen. And I had to learn, and hopefully you learn from my mistakes, that people only visit your website after they hear about you and get to know you through social media, through people you know, and through other places online where you're sharing. Third example. So I've talked about referrals a bunch. So using myself as an example, B2B, number one stays the same, but number two, if people come to me, in this case as referrals, then I know they're almost ready to buy. And it's my job to build that trust with them by answering their questions. So in this case, I'll personally create case studies, and sometimes I'll put together pricing sheets for them that show them how I work with people, the results I can get them, and the details of how to work with me. And I connect with them through email because I know they want to talk directly to me at this point. And something to note here is that people who are ready to buy can also come from your email list and not as a referral, because when you have an email list, you build up trust with them through email marketing. So again, if I want to connect with referrals and help them trust me so they can buy from me, I'm going to create case studies and pricing sheets that I'll plan to share in an email with them. And I only started doing this later in my business when I had built up a trusted referral network and I had people coming to me that way. You don't have to focus on this if you're not there yet, but if you are, this is a way to do it. Because I know people who are reaching out at that point just need a little bit more information. So again, the exercise, which we have time for. Before we get into breakout rooms, the goal here is to think about at least one piece of content you want to create for your individual business. So I'll pop this in the chat, but decide, write this down, who you're marketing to. Number two, figure out where this person is in their decision-making process. Number three, choose what content types you need to create for them. And number four, decide what channels you need to be on to connect with them. And as you saw from the examples, what will help you come up with more than one, if you have time and want to do this piece of content, is knowing where your ideal client or customer is in this decision-making process. Do they know you? Do they like you? Do they trust you? because wherever they are here will determine what kind of content you create for them and how you give it to them on what channel. And if you take anything away from today, this is what I'd love for you to take away, because this will help your business in so many ways. So a lot of information. If you have questions at any point, put them in the chat. I'll be looking at all of the questions. But now it's time to get into the breakout rooms. So just a little bit of structure for how we're going to do this. So again, I'd love for you to come up with one piece of content for your business. And you'll need some time to answer these questions individually. So my goal is that you'll be broken up into small breakout rooms, not with a lot of people. And I want you to take and I'll try to do 15 minutes for each breakout room, which I think will be enough time. And if you need more time, we can adjust. But I want you to take the first 5 minutes to write down who you're marketing to, where they are in their decision-making, what content you'll create for them, and what channel you'll use to connect with them. So again, 5 minutes, take the time individually to write that down. And then with the remainder of the time that you have, and if you're able to do this exercise more than once for different people you're talking to in your business, go right ahead. But I'd love for you to use the remainder of the time to connect with the people in your breakout room, connect with your peers, share what you've come up with, get feedback, see if it works, and see what you're going to implement moving forward. And then when we come back, I'll answer any questions we have and we will take it from there. So what you can do right now is, while I set up breakout rooms, is get started. Start jotting down. The clock has started and you can start answering these questions, and I'll send you into breakout rooms. And I'll make sure to put these notes, who, where, content, channel, 4 things you're coming up with, in the chat if you need them again. Okay, breakout rooms have started. I'll see you in a bit. Hi, John. Hi, Don. I know you guys are muted, but I ended up putting myself in a breakout room with you guys. So I am here if you need any feedback. I know you're probably writing, taking notes, but here if you need me. Okay, people are returning. I really underestimated my time. We only have a few minutes left as everyone is joining. But I want to make sure as people come in now, let's see, that you all have a way to connect with me. If you have questions, I answered as many of the questions as I could in the chat, and I know we just have a few minutes, but I'm adding in my email to the chat. I'm adding in my website to the chat, just so everyone has it. And I'd love to continue talking with all of you about this. I know we kind of ran out of time, but I hope that you were able to learn a lot of valuable information. You are going to be getting the copies of, hello everyone, it's nice to see everyone's faces. You are going to be getting, I know people asked if you're getting copies of slides. Follow-up email is coming with the slides, with everything that you need to get in touch with me. I ended up talking a lot and I didn't get to answer as many questions as I wanted to, but I hope you guys got a lot of valuable content today, that you were able to connect with people in your breakout rooms. You're able to go through the questions, get some ideas for pieces of content that you could create moving forward, and get to talk with each other and get feedback. And thank you guys. I know you're writing in the chat. I'm putting my website in the chat and also my email so you can connect with me, because I don't want this to be the end. As you learned today, it's all about getting people to know, like, and trust you. And I want to continue that conversation with everyone. I want to make sure if you have any questions, you can email me. We'll talk through those. But could I get a quick thumbs up or reaction if you learned something today, if you're able to take something away from today? I'm getting a lot of nods and thumbs up. This is great. Let's do a second session via email. Let's continue the conversation and keep this going. And hopefully you guys have content that people will love you for and want to buy from you. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jake, and we will close this out. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really, really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you guys so much. I know it's 4 o'clock, so I don't know if they're going to kick me out, but if we're still here, feel free to write in the chat and I'll answer any questions that you have for the last few seconds. Yes. And I've got your emails. If you're sending me your emails, I'll make sure to reach out and connect with you all. I'll pop my email into the chat one more time for you guys. Same with the website, so you have it. Awesome. Okay, well, they didn't close the session yet. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them to me while we have each other for the last few seconds. Awesome, thank you for your emails, you guys. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? Any questions before we hop off?
Hey, Diane. So a question that I had in my little
Yes.
breakout group in general. So I have a SaaS software product,
Okay.
enterprise SaaS software product, B2B. And I think the question always is, when are you ready to go out of stealth? We've been in stealth since we released a few months ago. And, we definitely need this type of marketing push big time in order to really scale this. But or my co-founder and I are always battling over, okay, well, when do you do that? Do you have any advice? Is it just one of those things where you just got to do it, or is there a metric we can reference?
Yeah, it's almost one of those things where it's like, jump and try before you're ready. I think sometimes we work on things so much and we want to get them perfect, especially, if we're developing a product or whatever it may be. But I think the best thing you can do is put it out into the market and test people's responses and see if they're receptive to it. When I spent all this time at the very beginning of my business creating a website, I had to make everything perfect, and then I launched it and no one was there. So it's
Right.
important it's important to get that feedback beforehand and almost like do a beta test of it and just kind of see what people are thinking, if they have thoughts, feedback that you can add to it, and then you can always add to it and polish it up as you go. That's the thing. When you launch, it doesn't mean that's the final product. You can always tweak it as you go. Does that help?
It does, yeah. And I mean, we have customers and revenue, but we're still early. So the concern is more of, competitors catching on and like catching wind. But I think that's always the founders,
Yeah.
irrational kind of thought process.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And for anyone listening too, thank goodness we still have a few minutes. Yeah, for any product or service that you're launching, I think we always worry about our competitors. But the thing is, that's why we have a unique selling proposition. It's the way that we offer what we do. And I know, especially when it's products, there can be a lot of competitors. But the thing to remember is that I like to look at it as there's more collaboration out there than competition. And, what you're offering and the product that you have, you do it in such a unique way that no one else does. And it may be similar to what someone else is doing, but that doesn't mean it's the same thing. And people will come to you because of your brand and your business and your why and your mission. And they may choose your product over someone else's. It's why people go to Apple, because of the mission. There's a lot of gadgets they can get from a lot of places, but they like the mission that they stand for, and we all have that unique thing that we can put out there. Does that make sense?
Does.
Cool.
Can I
Awesome.
ask a question, Diane?
Yes.
No, thank you very much. It was very interesting. Can I ask you about the segmentation, about if the more you want to personalize a message, the more segmentation you need to do. And you can split people time and time and time again. At some point, do you think is enough? How niche the niche has to be for the message to be appropriate. And also I'm a very small company. I don't really have a budget to give people to generate content. I have to do quite a lot of work for myself. So what's your advice on that, please?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the way to look at anything we're doing online, and especially when we're segmenting, there's a lot of different people we're talking to. It's important. But the analogy I use, and someone had put this in the chat and I made sure to answer it, is, how do you do things on Zoom and, technically when, it's so different in person? I think you use that same concept online. If you're at an event talking to people, you wouldn't use the same message for every single person in an individual conversation. You would tailor it or you would customize it. So that's the same way I look at segmentation. It's that personal note that you're sending to someone so they don't feel like you're just mass marketing at them. People at the end of the day, they want to feel like you're actually taking the time to get to know me and connect with me. And segmenting can help with that because it helps you tailor messages based on who you're talking to, their needs and their goals and desires at that point. And if you don't have a huge budget to market or create content, I think the way you can do it is through emails and through, personal notes that you send to people. You don't have to create ads and do a lot of things with a huge budget. You can do things in a small, tangible way for people. Does that help?
Yes, it does help. But, in terms of channels, if you want to focus on one channel, if you have got any advice to focus on one channel, what channel would that be that you can do with, I wouldn't say that minimal effort, but with kind of reasonable effort, you can do quite a lot of segmentation? Is it email marketing? Is it social media? Or what is it that you would recommend?
Yeah, I would say in your case, especially with the segmentation, I would focus on email marketing specifically, because that's where you're building that relationship and you're having personal communication with people and helping them get to that place where they can trust you and you can make that sale and conversion with them. It takes a lot more effort on social media because that's where people are getting to know you, and it could take, you creating ads and, putting a little bit of a budget there. So I think in this case, email might be the best.
And what would you put in the email to make it more personal? I know just putting that "Hi, Diane" is not a personalization really, because lots of people think that that's how as far as personalization goes. But if you want to make it more personal, so what is it that you include? Because in email you don't really have videos, you don't have visuals, it's more text message. How make it more personal through email? What's your tips for that?
Yes, and I'm going to put this in the chat too. And thank you guys. I know everyone's putting their email. I appreciate that. For anyone listening to, hopefully this is helpful with any kind of communication, especially an email. Yeah, it's not just doing hi, first name. It's always important to reiterate, and I didn't share this, but I'll make sure it goes in a follow-up email. I have templates on my website that help with this, on how to actually say what you do in an email, on social media, on your website, because that's the next step, is how do you actually say this? And it's important to always have these two things in any communication, is you meet someone where they are and address the pain point that they're having. So you address the problem that they're facing, because if you've created, a product or a service, that's your solution that you want someone to buy. So you want to, before you tell them about that, address what they're feeling. And then part two is talk about, how you can help them with that. And it's not just your product or service. You want to talk about the benefits and the results of working with you. So it's, where are they going to be after buying your product? So you're not just saying, hey, go here to this page and look at all the details. You're saying your life is going to be dramatically, improved depending on what product or service you're offering. This is the improvements that you'll have. So you want to make sure to address those two things in any communication. Have a little bit of a personal touch, meet them where they are, address what they're feeling, and tell them how their life or their situation could be different with the solution you're providing. And I'll put that in the chat. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And that can apply to anyone listening, any business at any point. And I'll make sure in the follow-up email that the links to all those templates also go in there. But on my website, I have a free resource with all of this information. I really appreciate you guys staying on too. I know we're over time, so this has been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. I'm going to, again, one more time, put my email in the chat so you can send me a message. And I guess let's see. DSW, is it okay to continue, or do we have to close down?
We're going to have to close down, unfortunately.
Okay. No worries. Thank you for letting us go over.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you guys so much for being here. I would love to connect with all of you. You have my email and I have a lot of yours. So I'll be sure to be reaching out. And those templates are on my website at givemesweetwords.com/free resource. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Diane. Thanks,
you
DSW.
so much. Thank you.
Thanks.